Boy, it's an awesome day out. Beautiful summer day. You know what that brings. Sooner or later, that's going to be landscaping. It means working out in your backyard. For construction crews, it means you're outside. And oftentimes that means you've got a shovel in your hands, you're bending over, you're doing some digging, you're picking things up. And so often, sooner or later, that means people complaining of or feeling of, boy, my back is stiff, my back is hurting. You don't need to feel that way. Hi, my name is Mike Naprella from Peak Performance Physical Therapy and Sports Training, and I want to give you the top 3 tips of things you can do to avoid back pain when you're doing shoveling. So oftentimes what we find is that when people are doing shoveling, they're scooping up, they're picking things up, and instead of being in a posture like this that uses the hip and protects the spine, they tend to bend over and round their back. And that rounding posture of your back doesn't really put you in a very safe position. So we've got these big muscles in our hips, we're really meant to use our hips, and what we call at Peak Performance, dominate your hips in order to do that lift, rather than to use your spine to do it. When you round and you're lifting, bending, shoveling in a rounded position, that really puts the discs at your low back at risk and also can put a lot of stress on the joints and the muscles. So let me give you some of these tips. The first tip would be, let's stretch out that hip and make sure that it's able to be used when you're doing the bending. Now we know that the human body has the ability to move in all 3 directions. It moves forward, backward, it moves side to side, and it turns. Shoveling is an awesome example of a time where you may be placing that shovel off to the side. You may be picking up whatever you scooped and turning it off to the side. So we need those hips to be mobile in all directions, not just one. So here's the first move. To stretch out that hip and hamstring, you're going to stand and put your foot out in front of you. Then you can put your hands on your hips, keep your back flat, sticking out your butt. And you should feel some stretch in the back of the thigh and a little bit in your butt. Now once you get in that position, there's 3 moves you can make. One would be to gently rock side to side. And we'll just do that 5 times. And after I move that side to side, and I can feel that stretch change from the left and right side of my thigh, then I'm going to incorporate the second direction, twisting. So I'm in my stretch, and I'm combining the stretch side to side. And again, I can feel that stretch change directions versus just being in one place. And then finally, the third direction would be, I'm going to get in my stretch and just tilt a bit more in that forward direction of the stretch. And then of course I'd repeat that on the other leg. So that's the hamstring and the butt stretch. We've got to be able to give the hip mobility so that I can get down in the position to use the shovel. The second thing is, people oftentimes say, use your legs. Use your legs when you squat, use your legs when you're doing shoveling, don't use your back. The challenge with that is so many people don't know how to use their legs or how to create strength in their legs to do that movement. Today I'm going to show you something called the split squat. Let me first show you from the side what it looks like. You'll put one leg out in front of you and the other toes behind you. You can put your hands on your hips to remind your body of technique. And we'll just squat down. And as I do that, I've brought probably 75-80% of the weight on my front leg. And as I squat down, keep weight on my entire foot. I'm sitting down into my hip and I'm using my thigh to do that work. But again, we just talked about how shoveling could include moving in different directions. I need myself to be competent in all those directions. So what I'm going to have you do is when you do the split squat, we'll keep your chest up and stick your butt out a bit. But I also want you to take your hands and you'll reach down off to the side, to the front, to the inside, to the front, to the side, and we would continue along for about 10 repetitions. Of course, then you would repeat that on the other leg. This way you're learning to use your legs and what we said in the beginning to dominate your hips when you're doing that shoveling. The last thing is just to accept the inevitable, that there are times that when you're in this position, you're going to start rounding that spine more than we might ideally want. And a great thing to do is called reversal moves. For example, if you take your finger and you were pulling it back too hard and that was starting to stress the front of your finger, what would you do to relieve that? You guessed it. Most of you probably said, I'd bend it. And that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go in the opposite direction. So if you've been doing an activity like shoveling, and you're out in the construction site or you're in your backyard doing some landscaping, and you've been doing something where you've been bending over forward, a great thing to do is intermittently just stop for a moment, put your hands on the back of your hips, and press your hips forward a bit and bend backward. But we're going to take that spine not into a rounding forward position, but into a rounding backward position, or what we call extension, which reverses the stress on those tissues that happen from bending over. And again, you can do that about 10 times. These are 3 top tips you can use to help make your back stay healthy and safe when you're doing shoveling when this weather is great. My name is Mike Naparella from Peak Performance Physical Therapy and Sports Training. If you're in the Rochester area and you're having troubles with your back with summertime or worksite activities like this, give us a call at 585-218-0240, or you can check us out on the web at www.peakptrochester.com. Have an awesome day.